Dr. Emily Carter adjusted her dive mask, the turquoise waters of the Caribbean shimmering invitingly below. Sunlight danced on the surface, a stark contrast to the shadowy secrets rumored to lie beneath. Her research vessel, the Triton, bobbed gently at anchor, a floating hub of anticipation. For years, whispers of a perfectly preserved colonial-era shipwreck had circulated among local fishermen near a remote chain of islands east of Puerto Rico. Most dismissed it as folklore, another tall tale spun under the tropical sun. But Emily, a driven marine archaeologist with a reputation for chasing the improbable, believed there was more to the story. Her hunch solidified months ago when a local diver, Miguel, brought her a barnacle-encrusted silver coin, unmistakably from the early 18th century. The location he described matched the old legends. Securing funding and assembling a small, trusted team had been a whirlwind, culminating in this moment. As she descended, the vibrant coral reef exploded in a kaleidoscope of color. Schools of fish darted through brain coral and sea fans, seemingly oblivious to the silent sentinel hidden beneath. Then, through the clear water, the outline began to take shape. It was breathtaking. The shipwreck lay almost perfectly intact, as if time had simply paused its decay. The wooden hull, remarkably preserved by a thick layer of coral, sat upright on the sandy bottom. Cannons still lined its deck, and the faint shapes of what might have been cargo holds were visible. It was, as the local legend suggested, a Caribbean Pompeii, frozen in time. Emily exchanged an excited glance with Ben, her lead diving partner, through their masks. This was more than just a discovery. It was a window into a forgotten past. As they began their initial survey, a sense of awe mingled with a prickle of unease. What secrets did this underwater time capsule hold? And why had it remained hidden for 3 centuries? Please subscribe to the channel to follow Emily's incredible discovery in the next chapter. The initial elation of discovery quickly gave way to the meticulous, painstaking work of marine archaeology. Days blurred into weeks as Emily and her team, a small but dedicated group of experts, documented every visible detail of the shipwreck. The vessel, a Spanish merchant galleon by the look of its design, lay on its port side, its starboard rails almost brushing the sandy seabed. The coral growth, while extensive, had somehow acted as a protective shroud, preserving elements that should have long since vanished. Wooden planks, though waterlogged, retained their grain. The captain's bell, still attached to its post, bore a legible inscription, San Cristobal, 1723. This was no ordinary wreck. The first hint of something amiss came with the discovery of the stern. Unlike the rest of the ship, the rudder and a section of the stern castle showed signs of deliberate, forceful damage, not simply decay. It wasn't the slow erosion of time, but a violent, concentrated impact. Almost like it was blasted, Ben murmured through his comms during one dive, his voice crackling with a mix of intrigue and concern. Emily agreed. What could have caused such targeted destruction? A storm wouldn't leave such a localized mark, nor would a coral growth. Pirates? If so, why was the ship so perfectly preserved otherwise? Adding to the growing unease was the behavior of Dr. Eris Thorne, a renowned but notoriously competitive historical researcher who had joined their expedition as a consultant. Thorne, a man whose ambition often outstripped his patience, seemed less interested in the preservation of the site and more in what could be extracted. He constantly pushed for faster recovery of artifacts, his eyes gleaming whenever a promising item was spotted. His presence began to fray the edges of the team's otherwise harmonious dynamic, a subtle tension building beneath the calm surface of the sea. Emily found herself increasingly at odds with his aggressive approach, a premonition gnawing at her about the secrets this ship might truly hold. As the team transitioned from observation to careful excavation, the San Cristobal began to yield its long-held secrets. The cargo holds, surprisingly accessible, contained neatly stacked crates. Inside, untouched by time, lay a treasure trove. Indigo dyes, tobacco leaves, exotic spices, and intricate silver religious artifacts, goods typical of colonial trade. Yet, beneath one stack of crates, Ben uncovered something far more unsettling. A skeleton. It lay curled, almost huddled amidst the cargo, not in the crew quarters. The position suggested fear, not a natural death. Forensic analysis, conducted carefully aboard the Triton, revealed no obvious cause of death for the unfortunate soul. No major trauma, no signs of disease. The discovery cast a pall over the expedition's initial excitement. Who was this person, and why were they hidden in the cargo hold? The questions multiplied, adding layers of human drama to the historical mystery. Dr. Thorne, rather than being sobered by the discovery, seemed invigorated, pushing for more aggressive exploration of the hold. "This changes everything, Carter. This isn't just a merchant ship, is it? There's a story here, a dark one," he declared, his voice almost manic with excitement. Emily, however, felt a growing sense of responsibility towards the discovered remains. This wasn't just an artifact. It was a human life. The ship, once a symbol of adventure and trade, was slowly revealing itself as a potential tomb. The constant pressure from Thorne and the silent, haunting presence of the skeleton created a palpable tension within the close confines of the research vessel. Evenings were no longer filled with celebratory discussions, but with hushed theories and nervous glances. The clear Caribbean waters, once so inviting, now seemed to conceal not just history, but a profound, centuries-old tragedy. The discovery of the skeleton was merely the prelude. Deeper within the same cargo hold, meticulously hidden beneath a false floor, the team unearthed a small, heavily reinforced wooden chest. Its exterior was plain, unadorned, a stark contrast to the opulent silver artifacts found elsewhere. Emily supervised its careful extraction, a sense of foreboding settling over her. This was no ordinary cargo. This was something deliberately concealed. Back on the Triton, the atmosphere was electric. Thorne hovered, barely concealing his impatience, while Ben and Maria, the expedition's logistics expert and a keen historian, prepared for the delicate task of opening the chest. The wood, saturated with salt water, was fragile. When the lid finally creaked open, it didn't reveal gold or jewels. Instead, it contained a collection of meticulously documented logbooks, charts, and a small, ornately carved wooden box. The logbooks, once painstakingly dried and preserved, began to tell a chilling tale. The San Cristobal, it revealed, was not just a merchant vessel. It was secretly transporting a controversial religious relic, considered heretical by powerful factions within the Spanish hierarchy. The log entries, growing increasingly frantic, spoke of a desperate mission, of being pursued, and of a crew divided by fear and fanaticism. The final entries abruptly ceased, ending mid-sentence, just days before the ship's last known position. The skeleton in the hold, it now seemed, was not just a passenger, but likely a key player in this clandestine voyage, perhaps even the keeper of the relic. Thorne's eyes, wide with a mixture of greed and scholarly zeal, fixated on the small wooden box. "This is it," he whispered, "the heart of the mystery." Emily, however, felt a cold dread. The historical significance was immense, but so too was the danger, a danger that had seemingly followed the relic for centuries. Don't miss the unfolding drama. Subscribe to our channel to uncover what lies within the enigmatic wooden box. The ornately carved wooden box, surprisingly light, was the new focal point of the Triton. Thorne was insistent on opening it immediately, his voice laced with an almost frantic urgency. Emily, however, resisted. "We need to understand its context, Eris. We can't just rip it open. It could be fragile or contain something volatile after 3 centuries. Her cautious approach clashed sharply with Thorne's insatiable curiosity. Ben and Maria sided with Emily, understanding the meticulous nature of archaeological preservation. The logbooks, now being deciphered with painstaking effort by Maria, continued to paint a vivid picture of the San Cristobal's final voyage. The relic was described not as an object of gold or silver, but as a collection of ancient parchments, said to contain interpretations of scripture so radical they could shake the very foundations of the church. The crew was split. Some devoutly believed in protecting the relic, others feared its power and the wrath of those pursuing them. The final entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, spoke of lights in the distance and the betrayal from within. The tension aboard the Triton grew almost unbearable. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, mirroring the brewing conflict within the team. The calm Caribbean Sea, which had once seemed so inviting, now felt oppressive, its depths holding not just the San Cristobal, but also the weight of its tragic history. Thorn, frustrated by Emily's methodical pace, began to work independently, poring over the drier, more accessible sections of the logbooks, muttering to himself about lost opportunities and historical precedents. His actions fueled Emily's suspicion. It felt as though he was searching for something specific, something beyond mere academic discovery. The box, meanwhile, remained sealed, its silent presence a constant, tantalizing mystery. The storm hit the Triton with unexpected ferocity, a sudden squall that churned the calm Caribbean waters into a tempest. Rain lashed down, and the vessel pitched violently. The weather, however, was not the only disturbance. In the chaos of securing equipment, Dr. Thorne, clearly agitated by the delay in opening the box, made a desperate move. He attempted to pry open the ornately carved wooden box himself, using a small, sharp instrument from the lab. Emily, alerted by the sudden clatter from the main cabin, rushed in to find Thorne hunched over the box, his hands shaking. "Thorne, what are you doing?" she yelled, her voice barely audible above the howling wind and crashing waves. He looked up, his face a mask of desperation and obsession. "We can't wait, Emily. This is too important. The answers are in here." A sudden lurch of the ship sent him sprawling, and the box slid across the table, narrowly avoiding tumbling to the floor. The confrontation shattered any remaining pretense of professional courtesy between them. Ben and Maria rushed in. Having heard the commotion, Ben quickly secured the box, while Maria helped Emily restrain a struggling Thorne. The incident exposed the depth of Thorne's ambition and his disregard for protocol, confirming Emily's earlier unease. The storm outside mirrored the tumultuous atmosphere inside the Triton. It was clear that the San Cristobal and its secrets were not just an archaeological puzzle. They were also a catalyst, bringing latent human conflicts to a dangerous head. Emily realized the struggle was not just against the elements or time, but against the very human flaws of greed and obsession that threatened to compromise the entire expedition. With the storm abating and Thorne confined to his quarters under watchful eyes, Emily, Ben, and Maria finally dedicated themselves to carefully opening the carved wooden box. The incident had solidified their bond and purpose. They worked with a quiet determination, understanding the immense responsibility resting on their shoulders. Using specialized tools, they slowly, meticulously prized open the delicate lid. Inside, nestled within layers of dried ancient cloth, were not parchments as expected, but a collection of small, incredibly detailed bronze navigational instruments, along with a series of intricately drawn charts. These weren't standard charts. They depicted not just established trade routes, but an elaborate, almost fantastical network of deep-sea currents and underwater trenches, some of which were unknown to modern science. The instruments, seemingly designed to interact with these unique currents, were unlike anything Emily had ever encountered. This wasn't a religious relic in the traditional sense. It was something far more scientific and potentially far more disruptive. Maria, with her sharp historical eye, pointed to a subtle inscription on one of the charts. It was a cipher, and after several hours of intense work, she cracked it. The message was a chilling directive from a clandestine organization, predating the Enlightenment, instructing the San Cristobal's captain to not just transport goods, but to map and control these powerful hidden currents. The text warned of immense power, of uncharted pathways to wealth and influence, and spoke of a rival group determined to seize this knowledge. The shipwreck wasn't just an accident. It was the result of a desperate, violent struggle for control over a profound scientific secret. The skeleton in the cargo hold, the damaged stern, Thorne's obsessive behavior, it all began to click into place. The San Cristobal had been a pawn in a centuries-old intellectual war. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Subscribe to our channel to discover the shocking truth behind the San Cristobal's final journey. The revelation of the navigational instruments and the encrypted charts transformed the entire understanding of the San Cristobal. It wasn't a ship carrying a religious relic. It was a vessel on a mission to map and potentially harness a hidden network of oceanic currents. The heresy mentioned in the logs was likely a cover, a convenient religious pretext to justify the secrecy of their true purpose and the pursuit by powerful vested interests. The skeleton in the hold, they now surmised, was not just a passenger, but possibly the lead cartographer or even the primary architect of this advanced navigational system, killed to prevent the knowledge from falling into the wrong hands. The implications were staggering. If these currents could be controlled, or even just precisely predicted, it would revolutionize maritime trade and naval power, granting unprecedented advantages to whoever possessed this knowledge. This was not a relic of faith, but a relic of incredible scientific foresight, centuries ahead of its time. The group that pursued the San Cristobal was clearly desperate to prevent this information from being revealed. Emily, Ben, and Maria pored over the charts, their excitement now tinged with a profound sense of responsibility. This wasn't just uncovering history, it was potentially unearthing a forgotten chapter of scientific innovation that could still have modern-day ramifications. Meanwhile, Thorne, still seething from his failed attempt to open the box, began making frantic calls on his satellite phone, his voice hushed and urgent. He had learned enough from the exposed logbooks to understand the immense value of the true contents of the box. His desperation now had a new, more dangerous edge. He wasn't just an academic rival anymore. He was a potential threat, and Emily knew they had to act quickly to secure the artifacts and, more importantly, the knowledge they represented. The discovery of the advanced navigational system and the true purpose of the San Cristobal put the team in a precarious position. The charts and instruments represented a power that could reshape global dynamics even after 300 years. Emily knew they couldn't just publish their findings without consequences. The historical implications alone would be immense, let alone the potential for misuse. Thorne, sensing their apprehension, became increasingly aggressive. He argued vehemently for immediate disclosure, subtly hinting at partners who would be very interested in their discoveries. His calls grew more frequent, his whispers more intense, his eyes constantly darting towards the securely stored box and charts. The pressure mounted. Ben and Maria, though fiercely loyal to Emily, expressed concerns about the ethical and safety ramifications of releasing such information. The betrayal from within, mentioned in the San Cristobal's logbooks, suddenly felt chillingly relevant. One evening, under the cloak of a moonless night, the Triton's communication systems mysteriously went dead. A sudden, jarring realization hit Emily. Thorne had deliberately sabotaged their satellite link. He was isolating them, preparing to seize the artifacts and claim the discovery for himself, perhaps even sharing it with his mysterious partners. The calm, professional environment of the research vessel had completely evaporated. The Caribbean, which had once felt like an extension of their peaceful research, now felt like a vast, isolating expanse. Emily rallied her team. "He knows what he's doing," she stated, her voice firm despite the tremor of adrenaline. "He's planning to take everything. We need to secure the most critical data, the charts, the instruments, and find a way to get off this ship before he makes his move." The next few hours would be a race against time, not just to protect the archaeological treasures, but to protect themselves from Thorne's escalating desperation. The showdown occurred at dawn. As the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, illuminating the Triton, Dr. Thorne made his move. He confronted Emily, Ben, and Maria in the main cabin, his face a mask of determined ambition. He held a small, antique pistol, surprisingly well-maintained, that he must have smuggled aboard. "I'm taking what's mine, Emily," he stated, his voice low and steady. "This discovery belongs to me. This knowledge will change the world, and I will be the one to present it." But Emily had anticipated his desperation. While he had been preoccupied with sabotaging communications, Ben had managed to disable the Triton's primary engine, and Maria had meticulously scanned and uploaded encrypted copies of the critical charts and instrument specifications to a secure, off-site server. They had also subtly alerted the nearest Coast Guard station via an emergency beacon before the main communication lines went down, feigning a minor engine malfunction. As Thorne threatened them, a distant hum grew louder. Emily smiled, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. "It's over, Aris," she said, nodding towards the approaching Coast Guard cutter. Thorne's face contorted in a mixture of rage and defeat. He lunged, but Ben, a former collegiate athlete, quickly disarmed him, and the pistol clattered harmlessly to the floor. The Coast Guard boarded the Triton moments later, taking Thorne into custody. The San Cristobal expedition concluded, not with a simple archaeological report, but with a dramatic confrontation and the recovery of historical scientific knowledge that could indeed change the world. Emily, Ben, and Maria had not only unearthed a remarkable shipwreck, but had also navigated a treacherous human conflict, proving that even centuries-old secrets could still ignite contemporary battles. The San Cristobal became known as a true Caribbean Pompeii, not just for its preservation, but for the explosive story it finally revealed. Their findings were eventually published, carefully managed to release the historical significance without exposing the more dangerous elements of the ancient navigational power. The world learned of a lost chapter of scientific innovation thanks to the courage and integrity of a small team. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to our channel for more exciting adventures and mysteries.